let me just jump into it here because Tua doesn't do this very much. He doesn't sit down. He doesn't sit down. He doesn't do one-on-ones. Walk me through the process and him sitting down with you and getting him comfortable. You must have known him obviously for some time, but I'll just throw that out to you.
Yeah, the first time I talked to him, we did a corporate event together, and that was like taking a tire iron to his mouth and trying to get an hour's worth of content out of him because he was just out of college and he was guarded and he was a kid and he wasn't an adult the way that he is now with job security, with children. And so from the moment that he sat down, it's a Tua I hadn't heard before. I've talked to him a couple of times, but he wasn't guarded at all. He wasn't careful. In fact, seeing him in that clip with you, that's as relaxed as I'd seen him. And that was still a kid, right? You were still talking to somebody who was a little more fresh-faced than the guy that we got a hold of. But you can imagine, Rich, right? 2 years in the league, feeling like your coach isn't actually isn't backing you when you have a bad offensive line, you've got no separation from your receivers, you're going to grow up fast. He is, and this is hard for me to say, Rich, I can't believe I'm saying it, as polarizing an athlete as I've seen outside of LeBron James in South Florida. And my history here, 35 years, and it's super bizarre because he's decent. He's not controversial, but the whole sport has changed so much. The people analyzing the measurements on what people are worth are changing. And so it's just been fascinating to see him become a polarizing figure when, you know this, he's not a polarizing figure.
No, not at all. I mean, he's actually a delight to talk to. And he's a good people. He's a good human. But, you know, our sports world, narratives get formed and they're tough to shake. And him coming into the league injured, basically, right? Or he was healthy, clearly, when he was drafted, but coming off of the end of a college career injured, and Joe Burrow basically leapfrogging him, and then Justin Herbert being drafted behind him, and he's the one that gets benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick by his coach. You know this, when McDaniel came in, the general sense was, well, he's going to boot him. He's not going to try to win with him. And it was exactly the opposite. And now we see a Tua that is pizzade. And maybe that's the guy that showed up. He's now got the ultimate respect of being completely paid. And I think maybe that's why you saw that Tua sitting on your couch, Dan. You know?
It can be all of it, right? Sure, job security, financial security, that is the ultimate guaranteed belief. You see the difference, Rich, between and how quickly these things can happen in that sport, particularly when the power goes from Brian Flores when he had it, how he behaved, to what it becomes when Tua's got the power and how Brian Flores has to react to it. That's a pretty seismic shift, right? I think that what we have seen this offseason, Rich, I mean, it can't be talked about enough. The best coach any of us have ever known is unemployed. He had to do multiple interviews with the Atlanta Falcons because whatever it is he was doing is not something that's wanted at present in this league. He's got a whole lot of disciples who have tried to do it his way. Not a one of them has succeeded. Not Bill O'Brien, not Charlie Weiss, not any of them. Like there's a whole bunch of people who've fallen from the Belichick tree and all that fruit is rotted on the ground. So there's no daddy protector anymore on your style is the style that works. There's a new generation of player. He's younger. And when you pay that player has real power. And you just saw what happened to Brian Flores when he crumbled under it, humbled, because he's trying to stay around on the fringes of the league, and Tua's got a guaranteed spot for a while.
Yeah, and the one coach I think you would say, and he didn't perform well when he was there in Miami as a head coach in the NFL, who is as successful as Belichick from his tree is Nick Saban, who coached Tua. So you can't sit here and say Tua can't take hard coaching. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he would be a wallflower being coached by Nick Saban. So the question is, did Flores never want him? Is that basically it? I
mean, he behaved like a coach that didn't want him. And then you can imagine, Rich, right? Like, this one's funny. Let's think about what Brian Flores' reference point was for quarterback play.
Yeah, right.
Let's think about, what's he comparing it to? He's got his first job, and he's coming out of, okay, I've had Tom Brady, running the Patriots for 20 years. That's what it's supposed to look like, right? It's supposed to look like Tom Brady looks. Well, this doesn't look like Tom Brady looks. So I understand why the pressure would make it so that Flores would think as a defensive coach, well, I'm doing everything I can. Look, that was a team that was said to be tanking, Rich. That team overachieved. Brian Flores might be the greatest success on the Belichick tree that isn't Nick Saban, right? Brian Flores had, he overachieved with what it is that he had. But I found most interesting the reaction around Tua, which seems unreasonable and insane to me at all times. People calling him soft when look at what he does for a living. And he, had to have conversations with family and doctors over whether to continue playing that violent sport that caused him a brain injury that made us all recoil because it looked like he was having a seizure on the field, the way that his hands were frozen in front of him. So people are calling him soft as if this is participation trophy culture, and we can politicize anything in the divisions of today. So people are now fighting about all the things around Tua, when I have found, Rich, and I'm sure this is your experience too, athletes are better at handling criticisms than media members are, or human beings are, because they come from coaching and they're always trying to learn and improve. And you can imagine, Rich, if we sat you down after your show or sat me down after our show, and then everyone picked apart all the things we did wrong in film study in front of everybody else. They're used to criticism. This is not a soft human being. He would not be at the top of the survival of the fittest sport if he were a weak human being in any way.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.